This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
This is It Was a Thing on TV.
Spoiler number one is Dr. Lee frowns. It stinks.
What is going on? What is going on?
Episode 83, submission number 1106, the David Letterman Show within a show. What? Trust me on this. These are shows that have appeared as vignettes on the various David Letterman programs.
Yeah, some of our favorites. And surely there will be a few of your favorites in there, too.
Oh, yeah.
And it's time now to check in and see what's happening with our newest character, Father Biff. He's streetwise but compassionate, I should point that out. Biff?
Well, guys, there's been so many moments in the 33 years David Letterman was on late night television.
Yes, yes.
From Late Night with David Letterman on NBC to The Late Show with David Letterman on CBS. We've had so many great moments, but as we all know, David Letterman could get really wacky. And this is going to be the first in a series of segments on this show where we're going to devote to shows within a show on television. And what do we mean by that exactly?
Well, these are actually shows that, were it not for their parent show, would not exist.
Yeah, these are like mock shows.
These are mocks. These are recurring sketches. These are basically plot points.
Yeah, if you think about it, it's sort of like on Conan's show, you have occasionally Sports Blast. And on Johnny Carson's show, you had Art Fern's Tea Time Movie. That's what we mean by a show within a show.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we're not talking about Conan now, and we're not talking about Carson now. We're talking about Letterman.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two will be in a later show.
And I think the first segment we're going to talk about, Greg's going to talk about it, and it's a favorite of all three of us.
Yes. The first segment is called Father Biff. Now, Father Biff involves, of course, one of our favorites from the Letterman show, stage manager Biff Henderson. And so Biff Henderson, in this sketch, he plays a priest named Father Biff. And basically, it's a series of sketches. These were 9 segments that aired during the fall of 1989. First segment started on September 19th, 1989. The final segment was November 23rd, 1989. And so you have Father Biff trying to teach 2 tough street punks the error of their ways. Sometimes to success, sometimes not.
More often than not, not to success.
No. There's one segment where Father Biff takes the 2 street punks out, pushes them aside through the window where you can't see them, and then he pulls out a gun, and it implies that he has murdered the 2 street punks.
And A, he doesn't have good aim, but B, he can't really control the gun that well. He's having problems shooting off the bullets.
No.
Quote-unquote bullets.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But one common theme is after every episode, when he's done with the street punks, he says, "I'm going to kick your butt."
Well, you also need to remember he's compassionate but streetwise.
Well, he's also tough but tender.
Yes, he is.
It's a butt-kicking priest. But I got a question, Mike. Why is it that Father Biff has to teach these 2 street punks new lessons over and over again? It's like these 2 street punks just don't learn anything.
Well, they're incorrigible. Obviously, Father Biff doesn't want them ending up in jail or behind bars.
No.
He's looking out for them.
Yes. God, it's just he's not doing a good job sometimes with these kids, but
but also, as David Letterman brings up, I think there's a bigger underlying issue.
yeah.
That's the fact that these street toughs who are teenaged are being played by people in their 30s.
That's just television right there, buddy.
Yeah.
And we should also mention one of the street toughs was Ed Hall.
Yes. We'll talk about in future entry, Merv Griffin's Crosswords. By the way, is Merv Griffin's Crosswords on the next video game show, Mike?
It has to be. It has to be.
It can be. I've got it for the PC and I've got it for the Wii.
I got it on the Wii and I got it on the 360.
Yeah, I had it on the 360, but I don't have a 360 any longer.
Okay.
Do you still have it on a hard drive?
I don't have the hard drive any longer. I don't have the 360 or the hard drive. I gave it to my cousins like 7 years ago.
Oh. You should have sold it for like some cash.
Anyway.
No, they wanted it for Christmas, so I gave them one so I didn't have their parents spending money. I was being the good family member.
There you go. You see, Mike was being a good uncle. Cousin. He was being a good cousin.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm looking at this Father Biff from 1988. You want to talk about a heavy? Jerry Vale was on that.
Yes, he was. Yes.
Yep.
That talk about a heavy hitter.
And he regaled everybody with a song at the end.
Yeah. But unfortunately, they didn't learn their lesson, the Street Pugs, because in the next segment, they ended up stealing canned food from the church basement on Thanksgiving.
Oh, no.
You can't do that.
No, you can't.
You can't steal canned food from the church basement on Thanksgiving.
I'm gonna kick your butt.
Yep.
And then the one time they're shooting dice, and Father Biff said, if I roll the number, I expect to see both of you in church. And he rolls the dice, and up comes a 7.
Yep.
See you lads on Sunday.
Right after I kick your butt.
No. If they don't show up to church on Sunday, he'll kick their butt.
Oh, okay.
Of course.
Yeah. So that's Father Biff. So what else do we got?
Okay, so our second segment is, well, it's along that same timeline as Father Biff on a Late Night with David Letterman. And around that time, we had a very controversial talk show host in Morton Downey Jr. come out. Not to be outdone, David Letterman has his own version of Morton Downey Jr., played by Chris Elliott. I give you the Chris Elliott Jr. show. And it was basically the Morton Downey Jr. show, but with Chris Elliott in the title role.
And we will be covering the Morton Downey Jr. show later on this year.
Mm-hmm. So basically what it is, Chris Elliott playing Morton Downey Jr. and to the hilt. We have the audience being the audience. We have David Letterman being the panelist on the Morton Downey Jr. show.
He was more like a bystander.
He was a bystander. It's like he didn't know what was going on, and he's just like, okay, this is such and such a person in charge of such and such a thing, Dave Letterman, and he was just, you know what, props to David Letterman for playing along with it.
I also need to give props to David Letterman because now, if you remember Morton Downey Jr., he did have little flaws, blemishes, skin tags on his face, his neck. And they played that to the hilt with Chris Elliott by putting little bits of putty all over his face.
He had looks like he had moles all over his face.
Yeah, like on almost every show, not necessarily on the first show, but like every other one besides the first one, he'd like take them off his face after a while, and the audience is like, "Ew!" It's like, "Oh, come on, it's a friggin' prosthetic." Jeez. But and I was a huge fan of Morton Downey Jr. back in the day. This was hilarious. You had some crazy arguments. Now, it would just be like little 3 or 4 minute segments. It wouldn't be like the TV show that much. But one of the segments was, are there too many ice cream flavors at the ice cream parlor? Yeah, I want chocolate. I want vanilla. That's it. Get rid of all these stupid flavors at the Tasty Freeze. But they did use a backdrop which looks very similar to the one they used on the Morton Downey Jr. show. And they also used the podiums, or again, similar podiums to what was used on the Morton Downey Jr. show. And even the logo, if you remember, the logo of the Morton Downey Jr. show was basically, it was a mouth wide open.
Yeah.
They used that too, including like the same typeface.
Yeah. It wasn't like, I wonder how they could be able to get the same typeface back then. Because it wasn't like today, how you could just go on like Google and just search, all right, what's the typeface for this show? And just easily get it on like Google after like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, maybe somebody had ins with WWR at the time.
Well, it's not like it's hard. I mean, WWOR is what, 8 miles outside of New York City?
Well, WWOR is in Secaucus.
It's in Secaucus. Yeah, that's not too far.
Not too far. It's 8 miles outside the city.
And again, I'm sure, like I said, somebody had the ins, or there was somebody on NBC's staff who knew what typeface was used and easily replicated it.
Yeah.
But and also, just like the Morton Downey Jr. show, there was always a confrontation of some sort. I mean, even the opening, not necessarily the opening animation like the Morton Downey Jr. show, but the opening where Morton Downey Jr. comes into the audience and gives high fives and kisses American flags. And, yeah, I mean, that was done perfectly. So here comes Chris Elliott Jr. into the studio. Everybody's hooting and hollering, not unlike what you'd see nowadays on like Maury or Jerry Springer, but they weren't rooting Jerry. It was just crowd going crazy, and he's high fiving everybody and kissing, like I said, American flags. It was a great impersonation of the Morton Downey Jr. show, a beloved show from my childhood.
Yeah.
But again, we'll talk more about that in December.
Yep.
Well, I think it's going to be my turn, and I'm going to talk about a segment that only appeared twice, and it was called Skink the Bounty Hunter.
Skink the Bounty Hunter?
Skink the Bounty Hunter. We've all heard of Dog the Bounty Hunter. Well, Skink the Bounty Hunter, a skink is a lizard, and this lizard eats vermin and bugs, and that's sort of what Skink the Bounty Hunter was doing. He was getting rid of the bugs and vermin in society. Tee-hee-hee. Except, as he mentioned, he wasn't eating them like a skink. He was just getting rid of them. So Skink was played by Chris Elliott, who, well, we just mentioned him in the Chris Elliott Jr. show, but he's done like everything for Letterman like over the last 35 years. His partner, Gerard, guess who played Gerard?
Gerard Mulligan?
Boy, that was a stretch.
Yeah.
Yes, his partner Gerard was played by Gerard Mulligan. The best way to describe Gerard's relationship to Skink in this series of 2 shows is he's the general disarray to Professor Chaos on South Park.
Ah, now that makes sense.
Now that makes a ton of sense.
Now it makes a ton of sense, yes.
He's the henchman type, but also the dullard type. Not terribly intelligent, no.
No.
And so there are 2 episodes. The first episode, the pair, Gerard and Skink, they go after somebody, and they actually find him in the area, and they're going to rappel down the side of a building and surprise this person. Pretty genius. Well, unfortunately, chaos ensues because Gerard's taser goes off and shocks Skink with a couple of 1,000 volts.
Ouch!
Yeah. And then there's issues putting Skink in the harness to rappel him down the side of the building. a little tight in certain areas, if you know what I mean.
Ow.
Uh-huh. And he has trouble getting over the window to rappel down the building because, well, Chris Elliott is a pretty big guy, and he would have been probably in his mid to late 40s at the time. And trust me, being a person in my mid 40s, I don't move as well as I used to. Some bones don't move the way that they used to.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Skink goes over the edge of the window and is rappelling down. And, well, there's one major flaw with their tactic. They're literally in a window like 3 feet above the guy's head. They weren't going down like 10 stories. No, they're going down like about 3 feet. And so they're trying to surprise him, and Skink's like, uh-oh, he sees me. Back up, 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 up.
Kind of reminds me of Chris Elliott's later character, Chris Monsanto on Tiger Heart. I think it's Tiger
Eagle Heart.
Eagle Heart.
Yeah.
Eagle Heart, yes.
You mean future episode Eagle Heart.
Yeah.
Ah. The second episode was a little more cleverly thought out. This time they're trying to find somebody who is wanted for, this is not a joke, they actually showed the warrant on TV. He was wanted for skateboarding in a no-loading zone at an A&P. And his bond was $20,000.
What?
Well, that tells you how long ago it was when it was an A&P.
Well, and also, obviously, the ridiculousness of it. $20,000 bond for skateboarding in a no-loading zone. So Skink and Gerard and Skink's wife, Peg, they go to the A&P and are looking for this person. And they have the wanted poster, and they're looking around, and they find a person who, no, Skink says, no, you're not this guy. You don't look like him. And it's dead looks like him. Mm-hmm. It is him. He's got sort of a heavy-set face, and he's got long hair, and he skateboards away from the A&P in the no-loading zone.
Oh, God.
Oh, jeez.
And then meanwhile, Skink, he goes after an older guy, definitely not a skateboarding type, putting his groceries away in his car and says, we know this is you bad guy. You're coming with us. What? Huh? I didn't do anything. Shut up. You're going to prison. And they stick him in the back of the car, and hilarity ensues. But also, I should add that both of these episodes, they ended with a tribute sort of to Desilu Productions. I Love Lucy and other shows. And also a tribute to Honeymooners. They had an ending which said, a Skinky Lou production. And it had Chris Elliott, or Skink in this case's head inside a moon, sort of like what you'd see with Jackie Gleason. To the moon, Alice.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun, Mike.
All right.
It was fun, and especially in a time when we needed fun. Unfortunately, it's not fun necessarily making fun of Dog the Bounty Hunter now, because his wife did pass last year from cancer. But at the time, I thought it to be absolutely hilarious, and I thoroughly enjoy watching Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Well, I'll tell you this, was as great as Skink the Bounty Hunter was, not as good as Cartman's portrayal as Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh.
That might be a South Park show within a show, possibly.
Yeah, Cartman is Dog the Bounty Hunter. Okay, so now we get into maybe one of the all-time great Letterman shows within the show. A segment that went on for a good 13 years, from 1998 to 2011. And
what's that?
Well, that is Pat and Kenny read Oprah transcripts. That's right. You're wondering, Pat and Kenny read Oprah transcripts. What's that? Well, this is how it sounds. Late Show stagehands Pat Farmer and Kenny Sheehan read Oprah transcripts. So what it basically is Pat Farmer is playing the role of Oprah, and Kenny Sheehan is playing the role of the person who's being interviewed by Oprah. So the joke would be Pat Farmer would be like, because you know how Oprah would be like, "Woo! Oh yeah! Woo!" You know, like all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the transcript, Pat Farmer would be like, "Yeah, oh yeah, woo, all right." And so it'd be like, our next guest is somebody who's recognized within the world over, like Barbara Streisand or somebody. And then it would cut to Kenny Sheehan being like, "Thank you, Oprah." And like the normal, like cigarette smoking voice he'd have. Oh yeah, and usually Kenny would have like a cigarette in his mouth while he was reading the transcript. Sometimes it would be like you'd see like all the ash in the cigarette. Like he couldn't put this ash in the ashtray. Yeah, just ridiculous. But yeah, and at the end of every segment on Pat and Kenny Read Oprah transcripts, Alan Coulter would say, if you would like a written transcript of Pat and Kenny Read Oprah transcripts, write to us at 1697 Broadway, New York, New York, 10019. I would like to know if somebody actually did this. Did somebody actually write to the Late Show saying, yes, I would like a written transcript of Pat and Kenny Read Oprah transcripts?
I don't know.
You know, somebody had to.
Somebody had to. And if they, I wonder if they actually did send a transcript of Pat and Kenny Read Oprah transcripts. By the way, it tells you how long ago this was. Back in the days when they would actually have transcripts for the shows. Oh, by the way, kids, in case you don't know what a transcript was, back in the day, we didn't have YouTube. So you would have to, like, if you want to, like, relive an episode, you could ask, like, the studio or the network, hey, can I get a transcript of the episode? And they'd be like, sure. And they'd send you a transcript of everything written on the show that was said, typed up. So, man, can you imagine somebody who had like a transcript of Oprah being like, oh man, I want to really relive this episode of Oprah Winfrey. I want to read the transcript of her interviewing, I don't know, like Tina Turner or somebody.
And apparently you could.
You could. But oh, that wasn't the best part of Pat and Kenny Read Oprah transcripts. You know what the best part of Pat and Kenny Read Oprah transcripts was?
What's that?
The theme song to Pat and Kenny Read Oprah transcripts. And we're going to play it right now.
All right, Dave, tonight Kenny and I are going to be singing our own theme song also.
Wow. Pat and Kenny singing their own theme song. All right, here we go.
I believe I will run on, see what the end will be. We will work home, find out what waits for me. I see 10,000 stories and glories and dreams. I see angels right here on earth. Our hearts are open wide, light shining inside. And the see what tomorrow will be, 'cause I like what I see. Come on and run with me, Pat and Kenny.
So yeah, this would be a parody of like the opening theme song that Oprah Winfrey used like in the 99 season. So it's just like Pat and Kenny like on a street with like people singing like basically the lyrics to the Oprah Winfrey theme song. And it's like you see them playing like jump rope and stuff.
It was basically a parody of the Oprah Winfrey opening.
Yes, that's what I said, Chico. It's a parody of the
sorry.
Oprah Winfrey opening. That's the joke. And yeah, once again, Kenny would have like a cigarette in his mouth while he was jumping rope.
It is a sight to behold, I should say. Next up is from 2005, and one of the historical sort of events of our generation, the Michael Jackson trial. Now, we all know what happened to the Michael Jackson trial.
Wait, what happened in the Michael Jackson trial, Chico?
Michael Jackson went on trial to fight charges of child molestation.
Oh, why didn't anyone tell me about this news?
So I thought you knew.
I don't know.
I thought you knew. Anywho, one of the things that not many people know about the Michael Jackson trial is that no television cameras were allowed in the courtroom.
No.
So because they are and they need content at around this time, I believe this was before the Kardashians came knocking. They decided a nightly reenactment of the Michael Jackson trial, in which they had all of the big moments from the trial, and they had actors, well-known actors, I should say, reenact those happenings.
The reenactment of the Michael Jackson trial is a future installment.
Not one to shirk the comedic gold, because this is the same era and the same show that gave us Pat and Kenny read Oprah transcripts. We have Gerard Mulligan and the reenactment of the Michael Jackson trial.
Jack going to his house.
All I can say is, Gerard Mulligan, is there anything that he can't do? It had one joke, but damn it, they made that joke work.
Oh, you're right about that. I mean, Gerard Mulligan.
Mm-hmm.
It's Gerard Mulligan. What can you say?
Hey, he has one job and one job only, and he totally nails it.
Yes. Oh, but the best part is the segment with Macaulay Culkin with the fat guy who's like doesn't even remotely look like Macaulay Culkin, saying, "Look at me, I'm adorable," and he does the part in Home Alone where he puts his hands to his face, and then it cuts back to Gerard as Michael Jackson putting his hands on his face also.
Oh boy,
That was great.
that was so great.
It's a joke, people.
Yeah, and again, this is on YouTube, but holy cow.
How Gerard Mulligan did not win like an Emmy Award for his portrayal as Michael Jackson, I will never know.
The Academy, it's all politics. Anywho, what's next?
All right, so now we go into our next segment, which is the character which was introduced in 1991 on Late Night with David Letterman, and actually was briefly brought back on The Late Show with David Letterman around the early to mid-2000s, but the 1991 version we'll be talking about, and that is Dwight the Troubled Teen.
He's Dwight the Troubled Teen. Oh, I'm guessing it's pretty much a put-on the old-fashioned sitcoms based on the Open.
Yeah, it's basically a troubled teen who comes to the Letterman show, who has his issues, and Dave tries to talk to him, but, because he's a troubled teen, he's moody, and he says to Dave and everybody, "I hate you. I hate all of you."
He has a lot of teenage angst.
Yeah, he does. He definitely has a lot of teenage angst.
Apparently he was 14, but you wouldn't know it if you saw the guy who was playing him. I have no idea who's playing him, but he sure as heck wasn't 14.
It's Letterman writer Chris Albers, who actually ended up being a writer on Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Oh, and by the way, fun fact, Chris Albers appears in a segment which was recently uploaded to Conan's Team Coco YouTube channel. He appears in a sketch from 1998 involving future installment Amy Poehler as Andy Richter's sister Stacy on Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
We should also add that Dwight the Troubled Teen did return in the early 2000s, played by a different actor. An actor named Michael Zagan.
Oh, I know who he is.
Yeah.
That Michael Zagan?
Yeah, from the Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Yeah, Marvelous Miss Maisel, as well as Boardwalk Empire, Girls, Rescue Me, number of other shows. But yeah, he portrayed Dwight the Troubled Teen in 2002. And Dwight, at least the first version of Dwight, just had a lot of angst. There was a time when he was caught smoking, and Dave said, "You're not supposed to be smoking." And Dwight said, well, you and your mom are smoke. You and your mom are hypocrites. And he just stormed off. That was the segment.
That was it.
That was it.
That was it. No explanation, just...
Nope, just, I saw you and mom doing it. You're a friggin' hypocrite.
Yeah,
that's all the segments. It's like Dave trying to explain to Dwight something, and then Dwight's pissed, and then he just walks off.
Yeah.
Well, there was one sort of creepy segment where apparently it was the birthday of somebody across the street from NBC, and she got a bunch of flowers, and then here comes Dwight the troubled teen into her office, and he's just staring at her, and she's like, what am I supposed to do with him? He's just like staring at me. And Letterman sort of came off as, not our problem.
Now we've saved the best for last.
And definitely the most popular for last.
Uh-huh. What do you get when you take a fish tank, a grinder girl, a hula hooper, and several household objects?
Is it buoyant?
In America.
Hey, look, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Will It Float?
Oh my gosh. This was a staple on Friday nights. And this aired, it aired for the longest time. I don't know exactly how long, but it started pretty early on Letterman's CBS show. I want to say 95-ish.
Yeah, it was pretty early. I mean, it ran pretty early and it ran pretty late. This was just one of the best sort of reoccurring segments on the show.
And simply, it was just you wouldn't do it for wagering, sort of like how Letterman would say no wagering during stupid pet tricks.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't necessarily do a wager, but Dave and Paul, they would just make outcomes guesses. Okay, I think it's going to sink. I think it's going to float.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would happen is usually one of the girls would push it into the tank, and, well, is it buoyant or is it going to sink? There's your $1 million question.
And do we have any stats on that show or no?
I don't have stats with me. I can tell you that they jokingly showed a home game a number of times.
Yep.
And also Letterman at some point plugged a PS3 version of the game.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
And, of course, don't forget the British version. Is it buoyant?
Yes, is it buoyant? And supposedly also a 360 version he would be pushing.
Oh,
who wouldn't want to play Will It Float on your Xbox 360? I mean, the only thing that would be better is if you had it for the Wii. So you could use the Wiimote and push it over the edge into the tank.
Yeah.
That would be the peak of interactivity in 2007.
It would be, yes.
And, of course, afterwards you have the fanfare with Hula Hoop Girl and Grinder Girl grinding away at her metal outfit, I would say,
yeah.
to the theme music, and down goes the curtain. Will it float?
Oh, will it float?
Oh, that was priceless. I mean, that was probably the most popular show within the show on Letterman. But oh my gosh, it was always an absolute riot.
Yep, especially the way Alan Coulter just announced it.
And it may have been repetitive, but it was always darn funny. Darn funny and sometimes surprising. You think it's going to float, and nope, it sinks to the bottom.
Oh.
Well, I don't know if this show is going to sink or float, but, well, I think we're done here.
Yeah.
Yep. David Letterman had a lot of good ideas, and we remember the best of them as things on TV.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Row! Another one bites the dust. Baby, you're the greatest.
Dave has brought us some many great moments over the years, and whether it's our good old friend Gerard Mulligan, whether it's Dwight the Troubled Teen, or whether it's Chris Elliott, you just know you're going to get comedy gold from those old David Letterman segments. Speaking of gold, we have some gold on the Place to Be Nation pop feed that's come out in the last week. We had episode 30 of Laugh in Theater drop. Andy Afferton was joined by Sean Kidd from the NWA Crock and Roll podcast to do a live watch of American Pie. The guys discussed scrambled porn, thick envelopes, college chicks, Arnold impressions, MILFs, being smug, Max, choir and band chicks, awkward conversations, lacrosse, baked goods, cool dads, mass emails, and the L word. So remember, this one time at band camp, I can't do it as well as Allison Hannikin. Oh well. In episode 4 of Piece of the Action, Matt welcomes Ben Locke to the podcast to watch the 1994 classic Speed. Listen to Matt and Ben talk about Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, Dennis Hopper, Jeff Daniels' great year, buses, MySpace, punk bands, and so much more on this exciting episode of Piece of the Action. And in episode number 3 of Blockbuster Rewind, Eric Eels, Scott Shiflett, and Andy Afferton are joined by Jacob Williams to discuss the action comedy Beverly Hills Cop and its sequels. They go through each of the films and talk about Axel Foley's detective skills, the relationship between him, Rosewood, and Taggart, the minor characters, both good and bad, the main villains, and their evil plots, and the final climactic shootouts. And as a bonus, they chat about the 80s action film Cobra, which has ties to Beverly Hills Cop. Also, be sure to check out the PTBN wrestling feed, which includes a dive into topics running the gamut from WWE from today through yesteryear. The feed includes the Place to Be podcast, Main Event, Jenny and the Gems, Body Pressure Luck, BTB NXT, NWA Saturday Special, and so much more. Subscribe today. And while you're at it, subscribe to Jennifer Smith's The Jenny Position feed as well. It is the home for Geek and Sassy, Talkin' Pop, Freak Out Driving, The Journey Through Infinity, Telling Stories, and more. And on the North-South Connection, brought to you by JT Rizzero, Chad Campbell, and Aaron George, it is the home for such great wrestling podcasts like Wrestling Warzone, No Holds Barred, The Extreme 3-Way Dance, The Ruthlessly Aggressive Podcast, Carolina Dreaming, Jeff Learns Wrestling, and more. And right now we're in round 2 on the PTBN social media pages for the greatest song from a movie tournament. Keep tabs on the tournament Facebook page for details. And we have the 2020 stretch project going on, determining the greatest WCW match ever. You have all year to do research for matches and build your list. Conversation rules can be found at www.facebook.com/GWCW matches or on the PWO message board. And be sure not to forget to check out PlaceToBeNation.com each and every day. We have new voices and fresh takes, bringing you articles on topics in the worlds of wrestling, sports, and pop culture, including Trent's SmackDown on Fox Report, This Week in the WWE by John Crow, Steve Riddle's Wonderful World of Disney Reviews, Paulie's Perspective, Matt's live-action Disney movie reviews, and Ben's Unpopular Opinion. Don't forget about veteran columns, like Glenn Butler's Wednesday Walk Around the Web. And if you're doing online shopping over at Amazon.com, be sure to click on the Amazon banner on the right side of the PTBN homepage, or use www.placetobenation.com/Amazon. It'll take you right to Amazon, and it'll help out PTBN at no cost to you. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Oh, no, normally I introduce what the final topic is of the day, but oh, you're gonna find out why I'm not gonna even try to do it in a minute. So just enjoy me dying of laughter the next 3 or 4 minutes as we get to episode 84. So enjoy, folks. Episode 84.
He's already dead. He's already dead.
There you go.
Episode 84.
Do it again without laughing. Control yourself.
I don't know if I can do this.
I'll do it then.
No, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Oh,
Because the joke's going to be 20 minutes of... Episode 84. Submission 11.
He's broken. He's fucking broken.
Nope.
All right. Episode 84. Submission. 11:58. Steve Martin.
He can't do it.
Episode 84. Submission 11.
We should all stay in the show. We should all stay in the show.
Episode 84.
3 minutes so far. 3 minutes.
Oh my god. Episode 84. The mission. 11:58. Steve Martin's wins. Steve. Episode 84. Submission 11:58. Steve Martin's. Steve Martin's the Winds of Whoopee. Steve Martin's the Winds of Whoopee. Aired on the night of February 6, 1983 on NBC.
Is that the best we're going to do?
Do you want me to do it again?
If you want to try. That's all we can ask is if you want to try.
Do you want me to say it with a straight face? Try to straight with a straight face.
You can.
Try it as straight as you can.
As straight as you can make it, my friend.
Steve Martin's the Winds of Whoopee. Steve. Steve Martin's the Winds of Whoopee.
Oh my gosh.
Everybody's listening to this being like, what the hell is this? Okay, we got to explain the reason for this.
Okay, episode 84. Submission 11:58. The Winds of Whoopee. The Winds of Whoopee aired on NBC on Sunday, February 6th, 1983.
Steve Martin's The Winds of Whoopee. A collection of his greatest moments on television, plus material never before seen, with special guest stars Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Gregory Hines, Lauren Hutton, Ron Liebman, Meredith McRae, Strother Martin, Gary Muledeer, Bill Murray, Lorraine Newman, Regis Philbin, Gilda Radner, Lynn Redgrave, Carl Reiner, and Fluffy the Wonder Dog.
So you, the home audience, may be saying, what the heck is this? How did this come about? And a number of months ago, I believe it may have been about March or April, maybe even closer to February, Greg and I were talking after recording some shows one night, and we were talking about the miniseries The Winds of War.
And for those of you who don't know, The Winds of War was an epic miniseries on ABC.
16 hours.
16-hour, 8-part miniseries in February of 1983.
Yeah, it was like the event of 1983 outside of maybe the final episode of MASH.
And the Thornbirds.
And the Thornbirds, too, which would have been later in 1983. But this was like the first major event of 1983. And I mentioned to Greg, I said, Greg, I don't know if you know this, but I remember from my childhood, there was counter-programming on the first night of Winds of War.
Because it would have been sweeps, yeah.
It would have been sweeps. So like I said, February 6th of 1983. And I said, I remember there's counter-programming on NBC that first night. And it aired in the 10 o'clock hour on NBC. And it was called The Winds of Whoopee. And Greg reacted like, okay, A, what the heck is that? And then B, what the heck type of name is the Winds of Whoopee? And I didn't know details about it, so I had to dig a little deeper and get information about the Winds of Whoopee. And as I said, it aired in the third hour of the Sunday night block, up against the third hour of the Winds of War, the first installment, and the last half hour of the movie Any Which Way You Can, and also an episode of The Jeffersons on CBS.
Oh, that's great counter programming. A movie with an orangutan, Clint Eastwood, and the Jeffersons.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. Nobody was aiming high that night. They're like, okay, ABC, you win like the next week and a half. Just take our ratings points for the month of February. Because unfortunately, Any Which Way You Can and the Jeffersons, and then on NBC, The Kid with the 200 IQ and Winds of Whoopee is not going to win you anything.
By the way, The Kid with the 200 IQ, starring Gary Coleman and Robert Guillaume, that's a future entry.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it has to be. So what the Winds of Whoopee was, that's easy to say, what the Winds of Whoopee was. It was basically an hour of Steve Martin.
Mm-hmm.
It was primarily clips of Steve Martin on Johnny Carson, other TV shows. I'm sure SNL probably showed up at some point.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the cast right now. You can expect SNL to show up.
And also, you had a number of special guest stars show up throughout the night. They did do some skits. Now, the whole thing, unfortunately, is not available online. Just the first 20 minutes. But you don't need even 20 minutes to see how much of a bad counter-programming example this is. I mean, NBC may have done better just by airing a test pattern. It wasn't all that funny. I'm sorry. I watched the first, 15 minutes of it, and I mean, there was a segment from Johnny Carson, and there was also a segment where he, I believe he portrayed a used car salesman hooked up to a lie detector. That wasn't really all that funny. And then the opening skit was not all that funny. It's just, like I said, it was just cheap, bland TV. And it wasn't going to get any viewers because everybody was watching Winds of War.
Yeah, it was just like Steve Martin has a contract to fulfill all these NBC specials. Let's just put one on in at 10 o'clock during the first hour of Winds of War, and let's hope we get some kind of something out of it.
Yep.
And so what happened is, I mentioned this to Greg, and I'm surprised that he hasn't gone back into this mode, but he was out of it. He laughed, and I'm not exaggerating. It was for probably at least 20 minutes. He couldn't believe there was actually something called...
No, I didn't. I refused to believe that was actually a real title.
Oh, yeah. I actually had to pull up the information and show him links and stuff like that. I'm like, no, this is a thing. I remember this being on in 1983. This is a real thing. And I mean, this wasn't submitted by anybody, any listeners. It was submitted by me because I remember this. And it's like, okay, this is just stupid enough to be an episode of this show. And when Greg heard about it, or specifically when Greg heard the name of it.
Oh, boy. That's... okay. Hey, Greg. Winds of Whoopee.
I've been trying to keep a straight face every time I says Winds of Whoopee, but I can't.
With Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Gregory Hines, Lauren Hutton, Ron Liebman, Meredith McRae, Strother Martin, Gary Muldeer, Bill Murray, Lorraine Newman, Regis Philbin, Gilda Radner, Lynn Redgrave, Carl Reiner, and Fluffy the Wonder Dog.
Yeah, don't forget Fluffy the Wonder Dog.
I can't forget Fluffy the Wonder Dog. We love dogs on this show. Mike's a cat person, but we love dogs.
And we love Regis. We still miss you, Reg.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the listing for that night, I have it in front of me. Steve Martin's The Winds of Whoopee. Steve Martin's wildest and craziest moments on television are featured in a comedy special composed of new material with guest star Ron Liebman and vignettes from the comedian's past TV appearances.
Which explains the star-studded night of 1,000 stars there.
Yeah, I'm sure Regis was from the Regis Philbin show back at that time. And as I said, he was on Carson. They showed Carson clips.
And obviously John Belushi had been dead for like a year and a half at that point. Or almost a year, because it was February 83.
Yeah, and also, as we mentioned, there were at least 2 other SNL alums, so you knew SNL would be involved. So this was just basically a showcase of Steve Martin's... It was Steve Martin's highlight film at that time.
This was before he became a Hollywood big shot.
This would be before he was Father of the Bride. This would be before he was one of the 3 Amigos. Exactly.
Oh, because guys, 3 Amigos. Come on. What else you gotta say about 3 Amigos?
Right.
3 Amigos is a great movie. That's all.
I'm surprised that hasn't been picked up for a reboot somewhere.
Or on HBO Max, since they own it.
Uh-huh.
Well, enough about 3 Amigos.
Yep.
We're going back to The Winds of Whoopee.
You know, one thing I learned about The Winds of Whoopee. One thing I've learned. Between 1976 and 1982, Steve Martin was the guest host on The Tonight Show 7 times. During that same period, Steve Martin appeared as a guest 36 times. So, yeah, Johnny loved him some Steve Martin.
Well, come on. I mean, it's Steve Martin.
Yep.
He was always a go-to for Johnny.
Yeah, but unfortunately, The Winds of Whoopee didn't excite the crowds.
No.
Do tell.
Well, it was going up against The Winds of War.
Obviously.
Nothing was going to beat The Winds of War.
No. Come on. You have Robert Mitchum and Peter Graves and Jan Michael Vincent. Come on. How are you going to beat that?
You can't.
Well, no, I think I got an idea. Maybe if on The Winds of Whoopee you had Tom Bray from Riptide.
Riptide wouldn't be on for another year, Mike.
I'm just trying to break you.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. By this point, we'll have Gene Woodsey from Riptide, Tom Bray, so you can put that in there.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
From Riptide, Tom Bray.
No, I shouldn't have opened my big mouth.
He'll give us, an extra 4 seconds of material.
And as another bonus for you at Place to Be Nation Pop, here's Johnny Olson from that same week of Match Game Hollywood Square saying, from Riptide, Tom Bray.
From Riptide, Tom Bray.
Yeah, 10 seconds of... Now here's 10 seconds of Greg laughing his ass off.
So, yeah. Shit, I don't know what else we're going to say about this.
Oh, I got something I gotta say.
Oh boy.
No. Oh, no.
Guys.
Uh-huh.
It's time for eBay Price is Right!
What?
What?
Oh, yeah! Okay, all right, but okay, guys, you're wondering. Wait, Greg found something on Winds of Whoopee. No,
You can't say it.
No, I didn't find anything on it, but I did find on eBay. Okay, you ready for this, guys?
I'm ready for this.
A 7-tape VHS set of the Winds of War. It's a 7-tape VHS box set, and I found it brand new. Buy it now. So you're bidding on the buy it now price on the 7 VHS tape collection box set of the Winds of War.
Okay.
Okay.
Herman Wouk's The Winds of War, I might add, because it was based on an epic book by Herman Wouk.
By Herman Wouk, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Chico, I'll start the bidding with you. And it's dollars and cents.
Okay, I'm going to bet. I'm going to bid $42.69.
Nice.
Okay. Mike.
I'm going to give Chico a little room. I'll say $49.90.
You have both overbid.
Oh!
Okay, so Chico bid again. Lower than $42.69.
$24.69.
Mike?
Still nice. Again, I'll give Chico a little room. $24.90.
You have both overbid again.
Are you kidding me?
Okay, lower than $24.69, Chico.
$9.69.
Mike?
He's still nice. Oh, screw it. $9.70.
Okay. The buy it now price on the 7-tape VHS box set of the Winds of War. $20.70.
Woo.
I really thought it would be higher than that. My actual opening bid was going to be $100.
Mine was going to be $75 because here's the thing. It's an epic series on VHS. Who has those anymore?
Yeah, that's why I was going to go $100 as VHS is a defunct format.
Yeah. Well, guys, guess what? I also got another item for eBay prices right.
Gosh.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah, this just
You're killing me, Greg.
Hey, we got to get material out of this somehow. It is a Time magazine cover with Robert Mitchum's face on it from the issue of Time magazine from February 7th, 1983, and the headline on the title is ABC's Gigantic Gamble. So I will start the buy it now price with Mike.
I wish it said something about Steve Martin and NBC's Big Gamble. Time magazine's, it's only 37 years old. It's not going to be that expensive, I don't think. I will say $4.95.
Chico?
I'll say $7.20.
Buy it now price, $8.
$8?
Oh, $8. Okay.
$8.
Okay.
Not a bad price. And also, if you want to read, it has a headline up on the top right about Ronald Reagan's State of the Union with the subtitle, Mending and Bending, whatever that means.
It's Ronald Reagan. It can mean a number of things.
Well, see what I did there?
Yeah. Well, it could mean that I'm mending, and it could mean that I'm bending.
Hey, guys, I got a question. Do you think Ronald Reagan watched Steve Martin's The Winds of Whoopee?
I did watch Steve Martin's Winds of Whoopee only because I didn't think that the Winds of War was American enough. But I did record it, and Nancy tells me it's wonderful, so...
Well, I went to bed early that night because the next morning, me and Nancy woke up early and watched Sail of the Century, Hitman, and Just Men.
We like NBC in the White House.
I really would like to see a picture, if it exists, of Ronald Reagan watching Just Men.
Well, that was more of Nancy's thing. Oh my gosh. What else is there to add?
We can't say anything else about Steve Martin's The Winds of Whoopee. I mean, hey, guys.
Uh-huh.
February 1983, NBC They needed something to put on opposite ABC. They knew that, oh my God, America, they're going to love 18 hours of like epic World War II stuff and Robert Mitchum and everything.
Uh-huh.
And so they tried, but you know what? Steve Martin's The Winds of Whoopee. It was just a thing on TV.
And now here's Greg Diener laughing.
Well, you know what doesn't blow like the Winds of Whoopee?
Our website, it was a thing on TV.com.
How'd you know?
Because you told me.
Ah. Well, there you can find all our previous episodes. You can find our socials. You can contact us. I mean, it's a hub for everything regarding our little endeavor here.
Mm-hmm.
But next week, next week, I think next week we might go similarly off the deep end.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not going to laugh for 20 minutes because it's not called the Winds of Whoopee.
No, in fact, this is like a callback to like episode 15 when we did Flying High, when we talked about the jiggle factor.
Yeah, this is. And I think that's actually where we might have found this, at least the first episode. The second episode, I think it only came to our attention in the last month or so.
Yes.
And once we heard about it, or once we saw an ad about it, we said, nope, we've got to cover this like right now. Don't care. This is top of the list. We're covering this. Again, these are two entries that are bizarre, let's say. They're both bizarre in their own right. They're both not series. They're specials, but...
Oh, they're glorious specials.
Are they special? Oh, yeah.
They're special, all right. They're really, really special.
And these are completely on YouTube. So definitely... You'll have to take a look for yourself because we're not kidding about either one of these.
Well, the first one's mostly on YouTube, but the second one's complete.
Oh, and the first one, even with just most of it on YouTube, there's enough stuff where we can talk for a little while.
You can get the gist, but I'll give you one number to remember for the first special. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
20,000.
20,000.
20,000. I'm not talking about...
And that's all you're going to say.
I'm not talking about the $20,000 pyramid, folks.
Nah, I get it. That wasn't the number I was expecting, but I get it.
He knows.
We'll have to figure out what 20,000 has in relation to this next week. Well, until then, thank you for listening, and thank you to Greg, and thank you to Chico. And I'm Mike, and we will talk to you next week on 2 more installments of It Was a Thing on TV.
Wow! Hey, guys, I have a good idea.
Hey, what's that, Greg?
You know, they really should have come out in 1989 with a sequel to The Winds of Whoopee. And you know what they should have called it?
What should they have called it?
Whoopee in Remembrance.
Oh my
God. War in Remembrance was the sequel to Winds of War.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I should tell the joke to the audience, but
yeah,
there we go.